In honor of Mother's Day 2019, I wanted to share this episode on the feed again with my sister, Caren Lettiere, founder of Democracy Clothing, along with an updated discount code 20ROMY, that's ROMY, to purchase Democracy jeans at 20% off on Amazon.com through May 24th. I also wanted to share an amazing update about the events that unfolded after we first released this episode in December. As you'll hear in this conversation as it unfolds, Caren and I realized more and more how much our missions are aligned but manifested in different ways. Caren helps empower women, many of them mothers, by helping them look and feel good on the outside. And I empower mothers by helping them get clear and connected to their voice, their vision, and their values on the inside. We decided we wanted to work together, and Caren brought me on to help Democracy with their brand messaging and to find ways to deepen their social impact. Because I was invited while recording an episode with Trayvon Martin's mother, Sabrina Fulton, to be an ambassador at her Circle of Mothers Healing Retreat, I had this idea that Caren could come too and gift the mothers who were all grieving the loss of a child to gun violence a pair of jeans. The weekend for the mothers was nothing short of transformative. That we anticipated, but what surprised us was that something like jeans, which might have been experienced as trivial, was, in the words of many of the women who tried them on, life-changing. After witnessing this, we wanted to support more of you with the 20% coupon to purchase the jeans, so you can look good, feel good, and have the confidence to do good in Democracy jeans. As we discussed in the original episode, we'd also love to hear from you. Share your photos with the Mother's Quest and Democracy Clothing hashtags, and let us know about your Democracy in Action stories that are unfolding. Sending love to all the mothers and those who mother, especially those who may be healing from the loss of a loved one. And now on to the show, a special conversation with my sister, Caren. Hi, and welcome to Mother's Quest, a podcast for moms like me ready to live our own truly epic life. I'm Julie Neal, a life and leadership coach, community builder, writer, and mom to two high-energy boys who challenge me to grow into my best self. I'll be right there. Where was I? In the months leading up to a big milestone birthday, I decided it was time to stop sidelining my dreams and realize that I'm the hero of my own journey. I knew I didn't want to do it alone, so I created this podcast to learn from other moms on their own quest, so their words of wisdom and lessons learned could help light the way for mine. I created this podcast for myself. Come along with me, and you'll find some treasures of your own. I'm thrilled to share this special finale episode of the Mother's Quest podcast with my very own sister, Caren Lettiere. Caren, who's 10 years older than me and like a second mother in many ways, has been a guide, mentor, and inspiration to me my whole life. She's an ambitious, talented leader in the fashion industry and has managed to grow a $70 million brand, Democracy Clothing, alongside a 27-year marriage and raising two of the loveliest young adults I know, my niece and nephew, Nicole and Josh. After graduating from UCLA with a degree in political science, she took a different course and embarked on a career path in fashion, beginning in sales for a company called Rampage and ultimately landing at Kellwood. There, she first filled a gap she noticed her daughter had for jeans and developed a brand to meet it called Jolt and Rewind. Soon after, she recognized an even greater underserved customer in the market, a dynamic, modern, multitasking mother like herself, who loves fashion but got busy with life. Devoted to this ageless woman and aware that she doesn't want to put an expiration date on her vitality, but could benefit from a little engineering when it comes to jeans, Caren launched Democracy Clothing. I loved this conversation with my sister and learned so much myself about how she grew the brand from her side hustle into the tremendously successful venture it is today. Before I share a few more of my insights and the special invitation and challenge Caren has for us, I want to introduce someone who's been along for the ride from the beginning Democracy's Director of Sales, Judy Owens, with this episode's dedication.
Hi, I'm Judy Owens, and I'm honored to dedicate this episode of the Mother's Quest podcast to both my mom and Caren Lettiere. These women have helped shape me into the mother I am today. And as a working mom of four, ages 14 to 24, I've learned the lessons of motherhood through those who have most impacted my life. My mom is an 8-year survivor of stomach cancer, which is pretty much a miracle even today. She came as an immigrant from South Korea with the promise of a job and only $50 in her pocket in 1972. Leaving her country and culture behind, she was determined to build a better life for her family in the United States. She taught me about perseverance, work ethic, and kindness through her lifelong dedication as a nurse in Los Angeles. At the age of 77, she started living her epic life and is currently enjoying Zumba, line dancing, cruises to Mexico, and singing in the choir with her new community. Mom is an absolute fighter. I have known Caren Lettiere for over 27 years. Wow, I don't feel that old. She is my work family, my friend, and mentor. When I first met Caren, I immediately valued her strength as a leader in the workplace. She had a gift for the work that she did, a natural eye and an intuitive nature, traveling on business around the world while maintaining a deep rooted relationship with her family, especially a loving connection to her children. I admired her ability to juggle having a demanding career and being a supermom, something I aspire to do. As our democracy journey took shape, the birth of the brand did not begin with product. It began with Caren's quest to create an empowering market for underrepresented consumers. Her passion and laser focus planted a seed that resonated authentically with women. She curated a movement which embraced motherhood and evolved the fashion industry. She built a genuine bond that has served as a link toward a loyal brand following. In this big world, where people often feel like they're invisible and unheard, Caren has created a place of belonging in which women can be strong and be the best version of themselves, whether it be raising their voices or raising their children. These are the pillars she has instilled within our democracy family, and that's Caren. I have been inspired listening to Julie's podcasts and truly enlightened by her insights on modern motherhood. With all the new challenges and possibilities in today's world, creating a community and bringing lives together is a substantial contribution. Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Judy, for sharing about your own incredible mother and for honoring the magic you've experienced with Caren and the work family you've grown at Democracy. Family, magic, a positive mindset, and a willingness to grow and evolve in community are just a few of the themes we explore in this episode. We cover everything from the important role that Caren's husband David played in supporting her career to how they both championed their son Josh last year when he received a cancer diagnosis and moved forward with his own positivity through 3 rounds of chemo and a clean bill of health. Caren shares openly about her own health challenges and all the ways she has built community at home and at work to help her thrive. Finally, Caren gives us a special challenge. She asks us to follow and apply the 4 pillars of democracy clothing to embrace who you are, enhance what you've got, elevate your taste level, and evolve your personal style in order to live a more whole and confident life. There's also a special offer just for us. If you want to explore those pillars in a pair of democracy jeans yourself, as I do, she's offering a special 10% discount code, 10democracy, that you can use on Amazon.com through January 13th. We encourage you to purchase a pair, wear them with confidence, doing something that really matters, and then take a photo and share your story with us using the hashtags Democracy Clothing and Mother's Quest on Instagram. We look forward to seeing and hearing your stories and learning about all the ways you are rocking your walk, as Caren says, in your epic life. I'm Julie Neal, and this is Mother's Quest. My sister Caren, welcome to the Mother's Quest podcast for the finale of season 3. I'm really excited to have this time with you.
And I'm really excited to be here.
We have been talking and joking and planning about this conversation for a while. And one of the things I like to do is share a little bit about how my guest and I are connected and why I'm having them on. And obviously, in this case, you are my big sister. I have 2 older sisters, and you're the oldest. You're about 10 years older than me. You're someone who has shaped me in many ways and who I've looked up to my entire life. And, being able to learn about your life, I've certainly learned from your example, but being able to hear you share your own wisdom in this way is something I really feel privileged to be able to do, and then to share it with other people through this platform. But the other thing that sparked this is that you recently had your clothing line and your jeans in particular included in, I think, was it a BuzzFeed article?
Yes, it was.
And I shared it on Facebook, which I don't typically do, share things about the work that you do, but I did. And I was kind of blown away about the responses I got from people I know who said that they absolutely love your jeans. And one in particular, Nancy Netherland, who has been a guest on the podcast, one of my favorite episodes, she has daughters who have had chronic illness, and she has stepped into major advocacy. And she talked about how the democracy jeans, how she had discovered them. And, she was in them while she was in Washington, D.C., lobbying for research and change to get at the root cause of her child's illness and to support other parents. And then she wore them at hospital bedside during her daughter's transfusion of, this way that they're now treating her daughter. And I was really moved by that. And I thought, I think there are more mothers and women that need to hear the story of democracy and to know about these amazing jeans that I love too. So that is the backstory. What, if anything, do you want to share about why you were willing to say yes to this?
Well, I think, it's funny in just reflecting on the contrast and being one of 3 daughters and how we share some similarities and then we're all unique in our own way. First of all, I just want to say I'm so proud of your role in Mother's Quest and how this has just metamorphosized and the extraordinary things that you're doing with this platform. So I'm really actually very honored that you think anything that I have to say might be of interest to your audience. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is really, for me, having a poli-sci degree and ultimately going into fashion design is such a, completely polar opposite, not atypical career path. But I always cared about social justice internally and said, well, I can always volunteer, but choose something else for my career. But I've always had a little personal conflict about I don't want to say legitimacy, but a little bit of a guilty conscience that I'm not doing something more substantive and purposeful with my career and my life. And in Mother's Quest, you help give them strength from the inside. And I guess conversely, I'm taking care of women from the outside, both of us wanting to make women feel that they can feel great in their skin and realize their best potential. But me transparently feeling that maybe, clothing and appearance from a perception level is not as substantive and important as the things that you do and the topics that are discussed by your other guests on the show. So to hear somebody as extraordinary as Nancy Netherland, chime in saying, I'm not sure whether it was Wit and Wisdom, which is the other brand that we do exclusively for Nordstrom, or Democracy, but it's the same technology and fabulous fit. To hear her respond saying how these jeans have taken her to Capitol Hill and bedside at the hospital and how much she loves them, and to find that the audience, that people out there are really resonating and connecting with what I do and that it makes them feel great and confident is just a really validating feeling. And so I'm happy to think that maybe this would interest people in the space of your audience.
Well, I know that you're going to have a lot to share that is going to inspire and help many of us today. So I want to jump in with my first question, which is typically tell me about your childhood and the impact that your mother has had on shaping who you are today. I obviously know a lot about your childhood, and we have shared the same incredible mother. So, what I'm most curious about is hearing from you what you feel like the biggest thing is that mom exemplified or created in your life that shaped who you are.
Oh, well, there's a few things. I think first and foremost, being one of three daughters, I think what she taught me, which I'm still aspiring to do, is that each child is special and unique and has a capacity to feel the heart is limitless. And I think what's so extraordinary is how she really raised us to be appreciative of the fact that we have each other, even at times when we may not have gotten along as well. And, you and I always got along, but we have a sister, Debbie, in the middle. And so during our childhood, there were times where she and I didn't see eye to eye. And I remember mom always saying, there is one day where you will be best friends and you will be so grateful to have each other. And she just really reinforced that. And we're all close with each other. We speak to her at least once a day, and we never feel jealous of one another. We never feel that the love or interest that she shares with each of us individually in our families is more than what she shares with everybody else. And I'm not aware of anybody else who's been able to do that as masterfully as she's done. The second thing I would say is, I grew up in a 60s traditional household. You grew up in the 70s traditional household where our mother was a teacher up until the point when she was pregnant, and you were not allowed to be visibly pregnant in those days and teach in a classroom. And she had to give up her career to be a mother and a wife. And I think mom may look at the career paths of her three daughters and be so proud of what we accomplished and maybe reflect on herself that she never, quote, had a career. But even though we had a stay-at-home mother, she was never home. She was volunteering at Head Start, tutoring kids, unwed mothers in high school. I remember distinctly being brought to picket at a market with signs that said checkers come in black and white. And I remember being so confused as a child because checkers were black and red. So we had this exposure. You in particular had the opportunity to participate in community theater with her. She just had a voracious appetite for culture, for friendships, for cooking, for theater, for museums, for travel. So I think I look at how substantive she is as a woman, despite the fact that she didn't have a wage earning career, and how she continues to learn. She goes to film festivals. She's always taken extension courses. She just has amazing stamina. I'm just so in awe and impressed with that. And then the third lesson that I learned, which really reflects on my own marriage, that, our mother and father met, I think she was 11. So they've been married 59 years. It's just an extraordinary thing. What they shared in common was their love of each other, their heritage, and family values. But their interests were completely different. Dad liked to gamble or go to Las Vegas. He liked golfing and watching sports and was not particularly interested in any of the theater, movies, things that interested mom. And so she really demonstrated for us that, a very modern example of how you can have an independent marriage and space for one another to pursue your own interests, that marriage does not require you to get filled up by each other, but that you should give each other space to be filled up and to come together with the common connection of family and love. And I think that example really provided a great foundation for my marriage.
Also, taking in like deeper awareness, these reflections that you're offering about the example that she gave us. some things that I had not articulated for myself before.
One other thing, which I think is very personally important, is I think that I've had the courage to pursue. I mean, we have a very supportive father who takes such interest in everything that we do and our husbands and children do. But mom was always a safe haven. Like she always reinforced me, gave me confidence and encouragement to pursue whatever pursuits were in front of me at the time. And I think that safety net, that foundation of knowing that I was loved and really cherished. I feel pride bubbles, carrying with me all the time from both parents. I know they're so excited about our journey. And I think that really, we're so fortunate to have that. And I think we've all been able to, accomplish really exciting things in our lives because we knew that we had that foundational love, support, and belief.
I've been listening to everything you're sharing with tears in my eyes, with so much appreciation for our mom and also new awareness of things I hadn't even articulated about the gifts that she gave us. This last point about the foundation that we each had, but then you in particular, to really do and achieve whatever we wanted to, is a great segue to start to talk about living an epic life. I know this idea is based somewhat on the hero and heroine's journey about really answering our calling and being the author of our own story, not letting fear or other things stop us from really stepping into what we feel like is our calling or what we want to do and the things that matter most to us. So tell me a little bit about, what do you feel like you've been on a quest for in your epic life up until this point? And then we're
Hmm.
going to ask you about specifically each epic guidepost.
Okay. Well, I don't think I ever had a conscious path. I sort of refer to my life as this wild magic carpet ride. And I just grab on and see where it takes me, or ironically, where I may be taking it, but it's never like a conscious journey. The only thing that was ever a very conscious choice was my absolute desire to be a mother. I always knew that I wanted to replicate the kind of loving family life that we were able to experience. And the greatest joy that I have is to have raised two amazing children who are not really children anymore. They're young adults, but they're incredible human beings. And to have an unbelievably supportive partner in my husband, David, who transitionally was so selfless. It's very hard. I just want to put this out there. It's no secret in our family and in our friendship circles that I'm a very assertive person. And it's often very difficult for accomplished women are very driven and they're very strong. And it's very hard to find a man or woman or whoever your life partner is who is not intimidated by your strength and yet isn't needy and weak and needs to feed off your strength, as well as someone who possesses a capacity to comfort you and be compassionate and empathetic and to support you. And so my generation is an unusual generation for men because they really didn't have examples. They came from this traditional household. And the territory that I embarked with my career on was really unpaved. Women and men working, and in particular, my career, which is in the fashion industry, required me to travel constantly. I mean, New York probably 10 or 12 times a year, Europe several times a year, China, other cities, to the point it's actually kind of a funny sidebar story. We're now married 27 years, but we went to Napa to celebrate our 25th anniversary. And we invited friends to join us for dinner. And when David made the toast at dinner, he said, thank you for the best 15 years of my life. And our friend said, wait, I thought we were here celebrating your 25 years of marriage. And David said, well, I actually calculated it, and we've only really been together for 15 of those 25 years. And so I think just in part, being able to be a present mother and feel that I'm connected to my children and a participant in shaping them as people and observing their hobbies and interests and watching them thrive, as well as having a demanding career that required me to, want to be home for Halloween and then hop on a red eye to go to New York. And this crazy way of juggling everything. I could never have had the steady focus to build what I built if I did not have the stable support of a loving and present father.
Well, I have the benefit of
I don't
knowing.
mean I don't mean my dad, although that he was helpful. I'm getting emotional. I
Oh,
just mean a father of my children.
yeah. Well, I know what an incredible husband you have and the exceptional children that you've raised. I adore them, my niece and nephew. Uh-oh, we may cry a lot through this interview.
Okay.
I adore them and they are exceptional. I want to ask a little bit about the career part of your quest. I think the fact that you always wanted to be a mother and create such a loving family, something that I have always seen in you, modeled in you. What is it, do you think, that has created the ambition and your desire to be in such a leadership role in the fashion industry? What do you think that part of your quest has been about?
I think that I have always been just an extremely passionate and excited person. And I have a natural exuberance. And when I get excited about something, I want everybody to share in this extraordinary experience that I'm having. And then I have an extremely assertive side that might be a little pushy in wanting people to share the excitement that I'm feeling about whatever in particular it might be. The initial start of my career was really in sales. So I guess those characteristics are good qualities to have if you're going to excel in the world in sales. And as I mentioned, I graduated with a degree in political science from UCLA. Go Bruins. And so I was always very analytical. And ultimately, along the way of building brands, initially from a sales perspective, I have creative capabilities. I sort of began to be intuitive about what the needs were or how people were responding. And it's almost like having an ear to the ground and being able to understand the message of what the consumer is saying they want and how to interpret that through product. And then having the sales platform or the ability to lead sales to convey that creative product on a larger platform to get it out there into the consumer retail space. And that's an unusual skill set, the right brain, left brain. And so I think the ability to envision things that aren't there and the ability to be persuasive and to understand how to articulate why those things are the right, products, items to put out there in retail space and how to ensure that it continues to evolve and change. And I think those practices in the workspace are actually critical to being successful in life in general because you have to be able to accept or embrace what's out there. You have to know how to enhance it. You want to elevate it. And if you can't continue to evolve and grow, then you're stagnant. There's no such thing as arriving at your destination or perfection. If we can't continue to improve or evolve or change or modify or adapt, the journey is over. And so I think that stamina, that desire, and that willingness to constantly self reflect and to acquire other skill sets and to push harder has enabled me to navigate in the world and ultimately to be a founder of a really unique and successful brand such as Democracy and Wit and Wisdom.
I'm finding it so interesting in this moment. seeing the parallels between the work you do and the work that I do. What you're describing is something I talk a lot in the podcast about, holding a growth mindset, continually evolving and improving. And for somebody who, you had said, I'm not a very reflective person. I don't know about coming on this, being in this kind of conversation. What you described is your ongoing capacity and inclination to be reflecting in your work.
I think that's an interesting comparison. The funny thing is, for me, I'm reflecting as I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
I somehow am on this autopilot trajectory where the processes just sort of come through the experience. But I guess the mindset is to be willing to admit mistakes, to recognize that if we don't make a mistake, then we don't have any learnings. And the only thing wrong with being willing to take risk and make a mistake is you just don't want to make the same one twice.
Mm-hmm.
And the more mistakes that you make, the more wealth of knowledge that you have of paths not to follow. So I think as long as you have the capacity, again, it goes back to positivity, to always find the positivity, even in results that are less than what you hoped for, gives you a reason to continue and the belief that you can have a good result.
Before we move into the EPIC guideposts, because EPIC is also an acronym mnemonic for the things I think help us live an epic life when we're raising our children, can you just share in a nutshell, like, what it is you've achieved? So, what is your role? How big is your business? What have you created?
In my current role, I helped, well, just to sort of preface how I got to this point within my career, which is extended over 30 plus years. I'm going to leave it to that, but everybody knows to add 10 years to how old you are, and they can figure out how long I've been doing this. In any event, I work for a company called Kelwood, which is a $500 million, really large corporation. And what's so unique is that I came into that environment after working for 17 years for a company called Rampage Clothing, which was a privately owned, really entrepreneurial environment, which I think gave me all the tools and the fearlessness to be able to achieve what I ultimately have achieved for Kelwood. I came into Kelwood Company and initially to head up an acquisition of a known brand. And I did that for a year, but I felt like I had lost my sense of self. I felt anonymous in that. I was used to building and launching and creating and nurturing and evolving brands in my past work. And so I started a division called Jolt and Rewind, which was initially denim and jeans for like the junior customer, like maybe tweens to the 20s. And in my role creating product for that customer, I recognized in my post-baby body that I knew what all these fashion trends were, but I couldn't find them available for, like I said, in a way that either fit my wallet or fit my body type. And so I recognized that there was a real void out there for what I say women who grew up with fashion and got busy with life, who want to look modern and current, whose bodies maybe have changed post baby or not post baby, just, post juggling it all in the working world and trying to, look fit, and just what happens as we get older. And so I recognized that there was a void and decided to create democracy as the sort of evolution of what we had established with Jolt and Rewind. And I call it my side hustle because it wasn't funded within the company, but I had an extraordinary boss, Caren, who really gave me the space and said, you know what, if you think that this is a valid opportunity, you're free to pursue it, but you have to do it within the financial and manpower constraints of your business model. So I didn't have any extra resources or help to get this done. And so it really began as a way to create jeans that fit women's shapes, that were flattering and really enhanced them. And I was particularly sensitive about those issues because I had never really lost the baby weight that I had gained from my kids, even though they were in their teens. So my real intent was to create a product, that denim clothing, that really was, cognizant and empathetic to the fact that women come in all different shapes and sizes. What could I do to make clothing that's super sensitive to what those different varied shapes are without assigning value to them, and make them feel confident and comfortable and current in those clothes? And so that was the premise for Democracy. And it really started with no additional staffing and an amazing woman, Caren, who worked on another brand, who I stopped in the hallway and said, "Hey, how would you like to help me design this line in your spare time on the weekends and in the evenings?" And that's really how it began. And for a year and a half, that was really how we were able to put this product line out there, much like the Wizard of Oz. We created this public perception. We had great ideas. It really resonated with the retailers. And I think something else that's really interesting about this journey for me is all the women in retail and men who were so excited by the product and were made such a connection to our innovative approach to putting these looks together in such an accessible and modern way to really filter and interpret trends. And they wore the product and they felt the connection, and they were so excited to be part of building something. That insular community of everybody that's been along for the ride in the growth process of these brands really takes a personal invested interest. And today, between the Democracy and Wit and Wisdom, which is just the exclusive brand that we sell to Nordstrom, we're going to ship in excess of $70 million this year.
That is unbelievable. I think it is incredible how you were able to create something with your own vision in this side hustle, scrappy entrepreneurial way within such a large company. I think it says so much about you, and also so much about, you mentioned the person, Caren Belair, who is your boss, who allowed you the flexibility and freedom to grow that, and who I know has since supported it in many ways. And I haven't heard you share that number before. I think that's staggering that you've shipped
Mhm.
$70 million.
I do want to say something else with respect to that, Jules. I hope this really resonates with your Mother's Quest community. Those of us who spend so much of our time and energy and identity embroiled in what we do in the workplace, we really develop a work family. And, I just mentioned a few people. There's another woman, Judy Owens, who really forced me in the initial phases she came on board. We had a long history together to create a mission statement. Like, she would follow me around and ask me questions. And then later she hand calligraphy and listed out all these things. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. It's on the back of our hang tags now. I'm like, when did you write this? And she said, you said it to me. I just wrote it out. So she really helped foundationally help us establish, the branding initially. I was just creating product and I had a vision, but I didn't know that it would ever become something as substantive as this. And she sort of helped guide me to create a center, much like your Mother's Quest, your analogy with the birds and your symbol and how everything is so meaningful to you. All of the symbols related to the brand and all of our talking points and how we speak to this woman is totally authentic and heartfelt. And I really owe it to her to, push me to articulate those thoughts and feelings so that we could put it in brand messaging, which really, really resonates with the consumer. The Democracy brand was founded on this principle of curve equality, which recognizes that all shapes are not created equal. A really important message that doesn't assign value to what your shape is, big or small, that we're all unique and different. And so that really important messaging I attribute to Judy's role in pushing me towards articulating those thoughts. But we have unbelievable, passionate salespeople. I have an incredible counterpart who came on board 3 years ago, Henry Thurville to head up the sales piece of it. And it is an extraordinary group of people who match each other toe to toe in terms of what they bring to the table, how much they care about the brand and building the brand vision. And it's just an extraordinary family to be a part of. And I think within large companies, it's really the heartbeat, the people that enable you to make magic happen. If I'm speaking as the elder sister who's further along in my path on my epic quest, in my unconventional pioneering life, so much is your foundation, your family, that in a traditional sense. But in a non traditional sense, our work families are people that we often spend more time with and who really know us almost as well, in some cases, maybe even better than our traditional families do. And nobody can do anything without the support system around them.
Yeah. Well, what you're describing now relates a lot to the C in EPIC, connected to a strong support network. And we'll give you a chance to share anything you feel like you want to expand on when we get to that guidepost. But I want to come back to your connection to being a mother and the incredible children that you've raised with the first guidepost, E, which stands for engaged. And this is about being mindfully engaged with your children. What do you feel like was the way that you were most able to connect and help them grow to be the incredible human beings that they are, especially in your career?
I think the most important thing was to make sure that the quality of the time that I spent with them was meaningful and to be present for all the things that really mattered most. And initially, it might be cooking certain things so that they could, in particular, Thanksgiving holiday became like an enormous banquet type of experience in our household. Probably a little bit out of guilt because I wanted to make sure they had the memories and they could smell the smells. And, I think I was conscious as I was raising them that we were making memories along the way. And I wanted to make sure that there were positive memories and that they didn't look back and reflect on my absences. So my presence was a notable presence. And, if that meant getting up at 5 a.m. to drive to go to Coachella and then take them to a soccer tournament in Bakersfield, whatever it was, my philosophy was I could always sleep later. And so it was really, work was a necessity, family was a priority, and I would fit myself in along the way. That's sort of how I tried to juggle all of those balls initially. But I also think that recognizing that children need love and their needs met and they need to feel stability. And it doesn't matter where they get it because this is their first rodeo. They don't know to have other expectations. But if all those things fall into place for them, how you arrive at that doesn't matter. And in our case, it was having an amazing extended family of two very involved grandparents, great aunt and uncle that really are like a third set of grandparents. And then their aunts and uncles and cousins. We all helped raise our children together. And so I think they really grew up feeling very encouraged and loved. Everybody would attend their soccer games. They had support in everything that they did. And they were able to just grow up to be confident, extraordinary people.
And one of the things that I think I can learn from you right now is that, because you are 10 years ahead of me, you've been parenting teenagers and now young adults. What do you think has been the key to honoring them as they've become more independent?
Well, I think I just looked to our mother because I remember growing up, there were things that I knew, Debbie was doing. I would say, oh, we dropped her off at Farrell's, but she's really going to the park. And mom would say, I know that. And I would say, well, if you knew that, why are you doing that? She said, because I trust that my children will make good decisions. I've given them the moral fiber and the ability to make good choices. And if I don't enable them to be in a position to make those choices for themselves, I may force them or make the bad decisions more appealing. And so, sorry, Deb, for mentioning that.
Never do
Um,
it.
so I really tried to do that with my own children, at recognizing that some things are developmental stages and to try to give them the space to do that. But also, most importantly, to not give them too much independence because sometimes they need the reins to be tightened, especially the transition, I think, from junior high to high school, where parents are not as involved with the teachers. The relationship is really between, the student and the teacher, and we sort of lose our conscious awareness of, are they turning in their work on time and how are they doing? And sometimes that newer freedom that they're experiencing gets mismanaged. And so being aware enough to know when you need to draw some boundaries.
What I'm thinking about in what you just shared about finding this balance between allowing our children to make their own choices, but also knowing when it's important to provide the support. I'm thinking about the experience you just had last year with Josh, your son, who was diagnosed with testicular cancer, had a tumor. And you and I talked about, and you checked in with Josh about being able to talk about this today. First of all, within 1 year, he was able to get the diagnosis, get the tumor removed, go through chemotherapy um,
3 times.
3 times, graduated from college in the midst of all of this, and is now healthy and thriving and got a clear bill of health. And watching you and being part of that process, I was amazed at so many things. For sure, I was amazed about Josh, where, speaking of positivity, from the moment he was diagnosed, he was just like, I'm doing this. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get through it with as much ease as possible. And he really didn't want it to disrupt his life because he had one more semester of an incredible college experience. He wanted to go back to school at Madison and be with his friends and graduate. And he made the choice to go back to school and to do his chemotherapy at a hospital near his university. And I remember thinking at the time, like, if that was my child, I don't think I would have. I mean, granted, he was an adult, but I would think I would have had a very hard time with that decision to not have him be home with our doctors under our care. And you completely honored him, but then you also stepped in to provide the support to help him be successful. I'd love to hear a little bit about like your reflections of that experience and what we can all learn from you in your example.
So I think, God forbid, any of your Mother's Quest community has to go through an experience like this. It is not a difficult one, and there's nothing that can prepare you for it. I can say that David, my husband, was emotionally probably had the most difficult time outwardly dealing with this, yet he was the one that supported Josh straight up with going back to school. If that's what he wants to do, let him do it. The mother and me wanted him here and home. So I was a little bit more reluctant to send him off to school. He went to school at University of Wisconsin in Madison. It was freezing cold there. We had to get him into the cancer program and find the right doctor. And it all had to be done within 1 week because this happened so quickly. But what I learned from that is, first of all, Josh is still friends with the same 8 guys are at our house every weekend. He grew up with an amazing group of friends that have been friends virtually since, several of them since elementary school. So he has this incredible connection with those friends. And then his senior year at school was just the highlight of his 4-year college experience. He was having the best time. He loved all the people that he had. Like, I think he was one of 8 guys living in an apartment. The whole floor was filled with friends. He didn't want to miss 1 minute of it. And it never occurred to him to think about anything other than I am not denying myself my senior semester. I'm going to go through this. And, I asked Josh about this. How did you have the positivity? And I never saw him cry. And he never said, why me? The only time I really saw disappointment was when the doctor said, I'm sorry, it's not going to be one cycle of chemo. You're going to need two more. And that was the point where it meant he would either have to miss his semester and stay home to do it or go through chemotherapy on his own at school. And that's the only time I even saw a flicker of like, oh, this isn't the information I wanted to hear. But, he said, I don't know, Mom. He said, I never questioned whether I would get into a good college. I've always just felt like things are going to go my way and I just have to do the work. But I never thought that I wouldn't get the result that I wanted. And fortunately, the type of cancer he was diagnosed with was curable. So it enabled him to legitimately have that kind of positive attitude. But what I observed, because Nicole and I went to Wisconsin to stay with him for the first week of his treatment there. And then we had to leave, and then different friends took him the following 2 weeks for the treatment. I think it was an incredible teaching moment for all of his peers at school to see how stoic he was. He lost all his hair. He didn't wear a hat. He just, he put it out there. Yeah, okay, so I'm bald. And went out socially, pushed himself, drank club soda, but still wanted to be a present participant. Got selected for a national competition within his major and had to balance all of that between queasy moments and feeling ill and just never, ever had a woe is me attitude about it. And we are never prepared for what kind of people our children become. But I'm in awe of his character and his perseverance. I think the biggest takeaway that I had from that is that our children are always our children, but there comes a time when we are not in control. And emotionally, that's a very difficult space to be in. And you just have to learn to trust your children.
Thank you for sharing about that. And I'm really grateful to Josh to being open to have his story shared too, because I'm certain that there's somebody listening that is going to need to hear this. One thing that I think probably also helped you as you were moving through that experience is that you did also have passionate and powerful work and impact outside of your family that you could connect to and anchor to in the midst of it. The next guidepost P stands for passionate and purposeful, and it is about the ability to make a difference beyond your family. You've already talked a lot about what you've built and created and some of what drives you, but where you are now in democracy clothing, what do you feel like the most important way in which you are helping other people through that work?
Well, I think we are living in an extraordinary time where social media and just the direct to consumer connection, the ability to really find your anonymous audience member, it's just crazy to have observed that in my lifetime, let alone what's transpired even within the last year. So for me, I always obviously love the product that we created. I only wear, democracy jeans, as do my family members and friends. And I think the thing that's so satisfying to me right now is to know that at a time when we launched the brand, when marketing geniuses and, storied brands had a formulaic approach, but also didn't really assign value or respect to women. Like everything was aspirational 25-year-olds. And I was operating from an unconventional, very personal point of view, which felt like, why should we put an expiration on women's vitality? And why do I have to say what the age range of the customer is? All of these things that I really felt personally as a woman and as a representative of my peer group, that I poured into the thought process about how we curated our product line, because it's not just jeans, it's a lifestyle brand that really helps women, you know, hook their look up, coordinating pieces that look effortless but make them feel trend right but appropriate. When I began to really see, much like our experience after the BuzzFeed listed the top 20 greatest things at Nordstrom, and our Wit and Wisdom jean was included in that, I'm just so amazed and excited to see that people beyond my family who come by their jeans easier, that people really connect with the product. They connect with the lifestyle vision, that it really resonates with these women, and that this is really a moment in time where we can get so much gratification about finding out who our true audience and consumers are. I mean, you have an audience on Mother's Quest, and I know that people have run into you and said, "Oh my gosh, Julie, I listen to your podcast, I connect with your messaging." And I know that you shared with me that sort of pride and shock that people would recognize you and that you have that ability to connect with people and make a difference to them. And that's sort of what I'm feeling, even though what we're creating is clothing and it's not social justice or things that are really paramount to my core values. Women matter, people matter, and anything that I can do to make them feel good about themselves, to help them take on whatever challenges or exciting things come across their path, and to have the capacity to share that with me is really exciting. You know, another person posted, because Mother's Quest posts on the Facebook feed, somebody that I went to elementary school with, who I haven't spoken to since elementary school, but we are Facebook friends, also commented that she wears the jeans. So seeing that people incidentally are finding passion and satisfaction with the product that I'm part of the creation of is a very gratifying feeling, and it's a very consuming space, and it was easy to dive into and be distracted from. I wouldn't say it was easy, but I was grateful to have that space to pour my energy into during the difficult time of Josh's battle.
I have a lot of curiosity too about how you cared for yourself in the midst of that. The next guidepost I stands for invested in yourself. And I really think of this one as everything from creating space for your own self growth, creating space for the things that bring you joy, but also caring for your own health and well being. What got you through that time period when you were so worried about Josh? And what have you learned about how to care for yourself in general in the midst of, managing such a big career and family?
I would say that being a master juggler of family, work, and travel throughout my career, the one thing that I didn't have the capacity to address was self-care, in the sense of diet and exercise. You know, traveling and trying to manage, you know, what food is accessible and what you eat was something that was really difficult for me. And so for many years, I was overweight and not, as physically fit as I should be. And I went for a physical, and the doctor that I went to just changed my life. He basically, illustrated, our father is a type A diabetic, and it's hereditary. So the likelihood that some of the three of us might become diabetic is very high. And when you're overweight, the risks are greater. And I remember him saying, you're on the precipice. And if you don't make a lifestyle change, there's a good likelihood in the next 5 years you will become diabetic. And even though I had heard similar things in the past from the doctor, it just never clicked in a meaningful way to motivate me. And I think what's interesting is, even though I'm in the fashion industry, I was never motivated by appearance, because I think I always had confidence from within. And I think part of the success of democracy was my awareness of what challenges women face with different body types and how to dress to make the most of your appearance. So becoming healthy for health's sake was actually something that didn't motivate me up until this point. But for some reason, it just clicked. And I asked him, what do I need to do? And he said, don't bite white. And that was pretty much the only advice I was given, which meant no white sugar, no carbs. And I just walked out of his office and I made a complete lifestyle change. And for me, what made it easy was I didn't put restrictions on calories or, portion size. I just said, this is in my lane, whatever's in my aisle, food wise, I can eat. And whatever I can't, I just can't. And again, I think a strong mindset where you don't say, oh, I can't believe I can't have pasta. I can't believe I can't have bread. You just think about the things that you can eat that you like, and you just make choices. And then there's something very empowering about that, because you're not requiring yourself to have, even though it takes, I guess, a lot of discipline to make a decision like that, it doesn't force you to make those choices every meal, because the answer is no. You just block that out and you have a strong mindset. And in addition to that, I started going to the gym every day, and I work out with the trainer twice a week with Nicole, which is a great mother-daughter experience. And I have to say, the 25-year-old daughter and the 57-year-old mother do the same workout. Kicks my butt a little harder, but that's one of the most joyous things. The other thing I will say is that decision was a gift to myself. And that was a conscious, life-changing moment where I decided I'm going to begin my day with a piece of the day for myself. And it's early. We go at 6 a.m., but I get to go to the gym and come home and walk up the paths of my house in daylight and pick up the paper. And it just sort of fills me up. And even though I'm only giving myself a couple hours, it feels like a Saturday to me, and it rejuvenates me, and it helps prepare me for what lies ahead. And I think that is what helped me get through this difficult time.
I love imagining you and Nicole doing those workouts together, and the picture you painted about your mornings. Morning is something we've talked about on the podcast a lot, and that I continue to struggle with. So I'm feeling a little spark of inspiration.
And I want to just say that it's also mindset, because believe me, when the alarm goes off in the morning, I want to go back to sleep. I mentioned all the places I'd been within the last week, and I just got home from a trip to Seattle last night at 9:00. So I was exhausted. But if I give myself the choice, I'm going to choose no. If I make it just an automatic thing, then I'm always so grateful to have had that gift to myself at the beginning of the day.
Well, we're on our last guidepost C, which stands for connected to a strong support network. This is where you can reflect on where have you and where do you draw strength from the people in your life, so that you don't feel like you're on the magic carpet ride, all by yourself, that you're in community on your journey.
I am very, very blessed in many ways, because our family is extraordinarily close. I married into a family that is as loving and nurturing as the one I was born into. I have an incredible group of friends, and I have an amazing community at work. And so I think that I get filled up by all of those connections. But I also reciprocally find the greatest connection in being able to do for the people that I love. I think that's my greatest source of satisfaction. is putting a smile on someone's face or consoling them or giving them advice. That's, to me, as much of a source of connection and support is really to feel needed and to make a difference to the people that matter to me, as well as having the ability to accept what they offer me as well. As much as I have an amazing nuclear family and friendship circle to really support me and nurture me and give me confidence and strength on the home front, I have an equally amazing work family who I spend so much time with, and without whose support and empathy, I could not accomplish all the things that I could accomplish. And I just want to give just a little example in terms of the evolution of when you start with something that's so small, that's such a seed from your own soul, and you have to take that and put it out there and allow other people to shape and mold it and to contribute toward it. To be able to have watched this brand vision start from within me and to see so many people touch the process along the way and add so much value and love to it without changing its desired intent is an extraordinary accomplishment for which I'm so grateful.
That's really speaking to me right now in terms of growing Mother's Quest. We're at the end of this calendar year, and I've been beginning some reflection and dreaming about what is possible in 2019. And I really want to bring more people in and to grow the community while still holding true to the original vision. So I'm really appreciating that example that you just shared. Thank you. Well, we're almost at the end of our time together. And this is the moment when you can give me and anybody listening a challenge.
So, I guess my challenge for the Mother's Quest community would be to just take a moment and recognize that you are all individual, extraordinary, dynamic, vibrant women, and to give yourself the space to appreciate who you are and how you got there on your journey. And if I can share our pillars of wisdom from democracy, that would be embrace who you are, enhance what you've got, elevate your taste level, and evolve your personal style. And I think this applies from the inside out. And for those of you whose curiosity has been piqued by our discussion of democracy, absolution, genes, we would like to extend the opportunity for you to purchase them with a discount from Amazon. And then I would love for you to share your journey with us, where you went and what you did in those democracy genes, so we can connect you and your experience with our followers on Instagram.
So that is really exciting. We will have a special link that I will include in the show notes. And then I'm really looking forward to hearing the stories. And I would love for Nancy Netherland, who inspired this conversation to begin with, to share hers. And when you post, to include two hashtags, hashtag democracy clothing and hashtag Mother's Quest. And that way we will be able to find and track and then share your stories. I'm really looking forward to that. And I'll make sure to include one too, because I have been wearing your jeans in so many important places and activities that I've been doing. So I love this challenge, and I'm really looking forward to hearing everyone's stories. Thank you, Caren, and thank you, Democracy, for doing this.
Well, I'm excited to see what other great things women are doing in democracy genes. I look forward to it.
So we're at the end of our interview, and this is an opportunity for us to acknowledge any reflections that we are taking from the conversation. I will start and say I'm definitely leaving with, for as different as our paths are, or at least we've felt that they are, I'm really taking higher awareness of the connection between the work that you do and the work that I do, and how much it is about helping women, especially in the years when we're raising our children, to feel confident, to feel whole, to feel good about ourselves, to feel like we can pursue the things that matter most to us. And I'm also taking away how much I can learn from you about holding a positive mindset and really making choices to either pursue our dreams or, to be okay having ambition and to hold a high bar for success, for being entrepreneurial and trusting our instinct and creating something from nothing. And also about really caring for ourselves in the way that you just made a choice to reclaim your health and to claim your mornings. And I'm seeing how so much of what you model really planted those same seeds in your children, especially in the recent example that we were talking about with Josh and the way that he handled his cancer struggle. Thank you for being an inspiration my whole life and for this opportunity to learn in a deeper and new way from you today. What are your reflections?
Oh, well, first of all, Julie, I'm glad I got through this. I don't know why it was really scary, but I'm surprised what a great experience this was and how peaceful I feel and how happy I am that I took the time out of my day to sit here and share this conversation with you, that I consider that a gift to myself. And I'm grateful that you gave me the opportunity to share my story. And I think after hearing your reflection, the one thing that really comes to mind that I don't think I expressed is that in all of this inner conflict that women experience because we feel guilt associated with careers, even if careers are necessary and not optional, we feel guilt that we're compromising our children's experience. And it's a source of inner turmoil for us. And I just want to share with everybody, since I have young adults now, that my children reflect back on their childhood and they consider my drive and my commitment and my career and my passion and how I traveled and landed at the airport and showed up at a soccer banquet as examples to them of work ethic that inspires them to have the same kind of commitment to what they do. So I think had I not been that type of multitasking mother, they might not have had a good visual of what it looks like to value family and career and to give them the inspiration to have that work ethic and commitment themselves.
Thank you so much for this time. I'm so looking forward to being able to listen back and to take even new insight from it and to share it with others. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Jules.
Thank you so much for coming along with me on this episode of the Mother's Quest podcast. I hope this conversation sparked something that will help you live your epic life. If you'd like to get show notes and learn more about the Mother's Quest community, head over to mothersquest.com. And while you're there, I would love it if you would follow the prompts to subscribe, leave a review, and help us spread the word. I want to end with some words to help light the way on your quest. Seize the day. Love your people. Honor your gifts. Until next time.